Very welcome back. Now, it's a toss-up. Do you remain living at home in the hope of one day saving enough to be able to buy a house, or do you move out and pay a huge amount of rent and in turn save less?
Well, there could be a middle ground, property guardianship, where you can live in large, beautiful property, but pay up to 50% less on rent than the going rate in that area. Aidan Devlin from Camelot Properties and Alison King, a property guardian, are here to explain this further. Good morning to both of you. Aidan, we'll start with you. Would you tell us about the concept and where it comes from?
Well, Mark, it's a Dutch concept, and it was the whole concept was born out of the fact that 16 years ago, the Dutch government were facing a huge problem. They had a massive migration of people into the country, not enough housing to house them, and yet there was lots of vacant property around. So they said to landlords and property owners, if you leave your property vacant for more than 12 months, we'll allow it to be legally squatted. And this business was born as a result of that, where property owners had to do something with their property. A, they either put 24-hour security on it, or B, they install people to reside in it under a license, and thereby you get protection by occupation for the property.
I.e. property guardians.
Property guardians.
Okay, so how does it work?
Well, it works on the basis that if you are lucky enough to own, say, a very desirable property anywhere in the country, and for whatever reason it's going to be vacant, we will install people to reside in that property, subject to it being passing health and safety checks on our part, to reside in there and protected by virtue of the fact that it is occupied. So if you have period decorations and period fireplaces, etc., and furnishings, and you don't want to take them out, our guardians can protect them then by living there.
What sort of people are looking for this service? I mean, I would imagine it's more the high end of the market now rather than your three beds that be in the middle of forever, like.
Well, we've a mix of everybody, Elaine. We have property owners who have former public houses, which are currently have guardians in. We have period properties. We have predominantly houses, but our business model across Holland and Belgium and the UK is basically 40% commercial and 60% residential properties.
And I suppose the plus side for renters, like I myself have been renting for 13 years.
Okay.
It's expensive business, particularly in these climates, in this particular climate. So, what sort of reduction in rent will the property guardian
Anywhere
get?
between 40 and 60% of the rate of the going rate in the area.
Okay, let's bring Alison in, because you do it. So give us an idea of the practicalities of it. Was there a fairly thorough vetting process?
Yes, I met up with Keith, who's the manager of the property we're residing in, and there is vetting. He checks references, a 5-year reference from someone who knows you but not a relation, also a reference from an employee or your employer, and checking bank statements and also
do you need to have a job?
utility bill.
Do you need to be in full-time employment or to have some form of income?
Yes.
Okay.
He would have questioned me
so
about that.
Are you asked to jump through more hoops for this than, say, you would be to rent a normal apartment?
Yes, I think because it's important they check a reference. They need to know that you're responsible. The ability to be a guardian is, taking on that extra responsibility than just actually taking on accommodation that you're renting. So, yes, they do check the references thoroughly, I do believe.
How restricting is it for you, Alison? I know it's different. You have to provide the furnishings, I believe.
Yes.
No parties. It's not like this is your place and you have the rights, and it's not like a landlord-tenant relationship. How restricting is it for you in that particular? Is the cut in rent worth it for what you're getting?
For me, it is. Like, I really just wanted somewhere where I could paint, relax. Got a lot of photography equipment, so the space is perfect. The trade-off on having parties and a lot of guests over, for me, it's worth it, and I get to save.
And you can go to their house and wreck their garden.
Yeah. Not even that. Does it still feel like home? Because I know if you're renting an apartment completely out, you have rights. It's your home. Your landlord can't come in without notice, etc. and so forth. There's a long period of notice if your landlord wants you out, or vice versa. But that right does not exist in this particular state. What can the person who owns the property can do? Can they have these? They pop in and out as they please if they're in the country? What way does that work?
The way it works, Elaine, is that every 4th week, Camelot Property Management will inspect the property anyway, just to make sure that there's no issues with it and that the guardians are living in accordance with their licence. And really, all we ask them to do is assume normal householder responsibilities. Keep the property neat and clean and tidy, no wild parties, amicably share with the people who are in the property with you, and respect your neighbours. They're the fundamentals of the licence that you sign.
Behave like a decent human being,
Yeah.
otherwise.
Absolutely. There's no rocket science in it, Mark, to be perfectly honest with you. In return, we will install them at a rental between 40 and 60% of the market rate in the area. The downside, if there is a downside, is that with 4 weeks' notice, Camelot can ask the Guardian to vacate the property, and the Guardian is legally obliged to do so. Okay, but we guarantee a minimum of 3 months in the property. Now, in relation to the owner having access, of course the owner has to have access. That's the reason why we ask the Guardians to keep the property neat and clean and tidy. Because if at some point along the way the owner might want a surveyor or a builder or an architect to visit the property, they don't want to be going into a property that's filthy dirty. It stands to reason.
But if
you
the
wouldn't
owner
use
is
your
back
own house.
in Dublin for the weekend and there's a spare bedroom, can the owner come back and stay in it?
No, that
doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't work like that. No, naturally enough, the privacy of the Guardians is respected, but they sign, I suppose, they sign up to the fact that there will be times when people will need to visit.
And
the
is there
property.
one Guardian per property, or for example, if you're in a 4 or 5 bedroom house, do you put 4 or 5 people into that house yourselves? Or, for example, could you invite your friends to be vetted and stay with you? Or is that
actually
what way
is
does it work?
what happened with us. My friend is staying in the property, and I was talking to her about accommodation, and she mentioned that there was a room free. Our property is a 6-bed, and they've put in 4 of us. So I knew one of the girls, and then there's another girl and a gentleman just moved in, and we all get on really well. He's
Actually, tell us about, I mean, the downside obviously is that there are certain restrictions. Tell us about the upside, because it would seem to me that you get a chance to live in a really, really beautiful place, which in the normal course of events you couldn't afford.
Yeah.
And you're paying, I don't know what the going rate for your accommodation would be, and I'm not sure what you're paying now. Is it about 300 a month or something?
300 a month,
300 a month. Realistically, what would you expect to pay for the kind of accommodation you're in?
800 or 900.
Just for what you have?
Yeah. My room is huge. Like, it could be an apartment in itself.
Okay, and what about the rest of the house?
Same, massive, huge
And is it
rooms
beautiful?
downstairs. It's gorgeous.
How long have you been living there?
I'm there a month now almost. So,
And
yeah.
how long is your license?
Well, we signed for 3 months, and then depending on how things go, it could be 6 months to.
Yeah,
10.
what about I mean, there are certain things in our lives that are, you know, funerals, weddings, and moving house. I mean, the idea of, I mean, it sounds like a lovely deal and all the rest of it, but the idea of having to move every 3 or 4 months I know personally would kill me. How do you feel about that?
Well, it is an unconventional way to live, so, but to me, that was the appeal. It's a bit different. There's grounds, and it's gorgeous, and it's just for 3 months or 6 months or whatever.
You obviously have someone to check out the rest of the rental market. I mean,
Yeah.
So, I mean, realistically, okay, given your job, and I don't know what your salary level is, but what would you realistically have to pay for an apartment in Dublin?
Well, I needed something large because I've got so many art materials and photography, but for the size I needed for what I have, it was like 700 to 800. Like,
So,
I can't live with
And
small.
believe me, I know you wouldn't get a shoebox in most of Dublin.
Exactly,
Or you wouldn't get a box room in an apartment in Dublin for that
So, in
money
actual
now.
fact, this is saving you a lot of money for some slight inconvenience, but still a beautiful place to live in.
Exactly, yeah.
Would you move your Guardians on, for example, if in 3 months' time Alison had to up sticks because they were going home and she had to move bag and baggage again? If you had another desirable property
Absolutely.
and it suited,
Our Guardians will be, our existing Guardians will be offered the option of moving into that property, and it's just a straight transfer.
if they're nice, you mind them.
Exactly.
Well, it sounds like a wonderful idea. I know I think Sunday Tribune did a piece on you recently, and you got a huge level of interest and upsurge in interest.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, we're inundated at the moment with people applying for guardianships, and of course, in fairness, building owners also have actually been on to us to investigate the concept a little bit deeper. Our problem is that because this concept is so simple, a lot of people say, where's the catch? And the fact of the matter is there is no catch. It's actually a very practical solution to what is a problem that we all have in every city in Europe, which is vandalism. If you've got a vacant property, it becomes a target
And
for
security.
vandalism.
And of course, there's insurance benefits and
Absolutely,
problems
yes.
as well. Well, look, The website, we have the website up on that, and there's an off-quoted statistic that 40% of all the apartments and properties that have been built in Dublin in the last 10 years are vacant.
Yes.
So have you got enough guardians to go around?
We'll have to
At the moment, I've got so many guardians and not enough properties, Mark. That's the problem.
This might solve that for you.
Absolutely.
Thank you both very much.
Thank you very much for
Thank you
coming
very
this
much.
morning.
We'll take a break. We'll see you back here in a few minutes' time.